All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12 of BHD Sports Podcast. We have para athlete Ben Brown with us tonight. Ben, how's it going, bud?
Pretty good, Adam. I'm just recovering from Nova Scotia team trials that I raced 3 days in a row, and can't complain. I'm just ready to get back in the boat ASAP. I'll have to wait 2 more days because the boat's under some repairs again. No big deal. I guess it's just a lifestyle of me. I break stuff.
Exactly.
Oh man, we're super excited to have you on, Ben, and can't wait to hear about your experiences with racing and other sport and just your journey through sport. We've been looking forward to this one for a while. So thanks so much for taking the time. I know you got a busy training schedule, but we appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences with us.
Oh, anytime, Chris. I've been getting on Hemi about this for about 8 weeks at least.
Since I know you've been messaging me ever since I said we'll have you on, but no, sorry to keep you waiting. I know everybody's gonna definitely want to hear what you say. We wanted to make sure that we got this done right, and I mean. This is episode 12. I think this is background number 12 for I'm in the middle of moving into a new place right now, but I think eventually I might have some sort of permanent background at some point in time. Denny and Chris have had their setup, but I think I'm going to be home in the province for a bit more in the next 2 months than I have been. But we're really happy to have you on, Ben, and it's nice to have another paddler. I think you're the first para athlete we've had on the show, so we're really excited to have you and hear about your stories. But first off, to start it off, like how do you know Denny from before?
So Adam and I met in 2007 take part through Easter Seals sport camp that a friend of ours, Anthony Purcell, put on for like wheelchair adaptive sports, because at that point I was not even quite a year post spinal cord injury, and I just wanted to get back into sport ASAP, and I was cleared by the doctor to go for it. So we were on Acadia for I think about a week, and we got on, played lots of wheelchair basketball, but that's because that was the sport easiest to organize. We got on the ice, and did some sledge hockey, and that was the first time I stepped on the ice in well over a year. And Adam can tell you, it took me about 10 minutes of shooting with my right hand, but because I played hockey as a kid, I was roofing it pretty much for what was it, Adam? Probably good 30 minutes straight. Just if it wasn't top shelf or top corner, it was going right off the crossbar.
And I was okay. Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was roofing it for a good 20 minutes before he could get a hang of it, but.
I can barely lift the puck even with my whole body. So good on you, but to be able to do that real quick. I've said before, I got hands like bricks, but so I mean, you know me through paddling. You've met Chris now, and you've known Denny since 2007. That wasn't yesterday.
No, I mean, come August 20th will be what I call sweet 16 of my injury, right? So. And I think that'll be roughly around that's when national starts, right? Like August 20th or when we're on our nice little road trip.
23rd is the first day of nationals.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking forward to our very busy schedule this summer. We got Worlds in August, and 3 days after Worlds is over, we got Pan Am Cup, and then a week and a half later, we're off to Shawin again. So
it's a busy schedule, but correct me if I'm wrong, but are you racing at Canada Cup in July?
Yeah. I mean, I'm waiting for the official word, but because with the trials and because I haven't seen anything posted on Facebook or from the division, so I'm waiting for that and waiting for some new photos of me in the boat, right? So
yeah, exactly. You got to get those good Graham hammers going.
Exactly, and not just that, but I'm hopefully having a newer vehicle by the end of the week, and it's got to have a paddling picture, right? Instead of that, nothing against my wheelchair racing picture, but I'm no longer a wheelchair racer, so got to update the image, right?
Yeah, your shag and wagon is an advertisement for Ben Brown. I will say that.
Yeah. No, the funny thing about that photo is I was at 6.7% body fat when that was taken.
Holy shit, man, that is lean.
Well, that was the thing about wheelchair racing is as a T53, I was either racing guys like myself got injured in our late teens, early adulthood, or we're racing guys either paralyzed, they got paralyzed before the age of 10, so they weighed next to nothing, or they were born with what we call sacral genesis. So those guys were even lighter. So the thing was, like, I had to be not like because my legs are pretty atrophied from the injury, but I still get a lot of leg spasms. So they weren't like they're not complete sticks. So the thing was, I had to be at a certain weight to try to match someone like Brent Lakato's power to weight ratio. And I mean, it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it though, even though I did a lot of weight cutting over that 12-year career. And the one thing I'm loving about paddling, man, is I can have pizza every now and then and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Perks of the job, eh, Ben? That's awesome, man. So Ben, first question from me, man, just kind of wondering, when did you fall in love with competing? Because one thing I definitely know right off the bat from you is you love to compete. So when did your drive to compete kind of happen, and how has sport shaped you as a person?
Well, I'd say, like, I was a bit of a gamer as a kid. I still play video games now, but like the retro, and it's like for 2 to 3 hours at the most, just to mentally deload. And my aunt wanted me to get into sport ASAP, and I already did some cross country running like in elementary school. So I got into ringette, and I hated to lose right off the get-go. And then that was to get me skating so I could play hockey the next season. Did softball, hated to lose as well. I just like to win. And if it's not, and like I tell people, even if I don't win races at the moment, and this is even with wheelchair racing, as long as I improve and get faster, I'd rather be, how should I put this? I'd rather be dead last in my race and know I got a personal best or close to a personal best than win by a mile and be like, have a slow time, if that makes sense. So it's always kind of been like that. Like from day one, is I just like to do very well and improve and knowing at the end of the game or now race is I did everything in my power to get that end result. And I started playing hockey like when I was 10. Now, mind you, I'm flat-footed. So for you guys knowing that term, getting caught flat-footed, well, can't skate. That's why as a House and B hockey player, nothing to be ashamed about, but I never made AAA hockey. So watching Wildcats hockey for the last decade has been, really cool to watch. You see the guys develop from, U8 or U15 and U18, and where I volunteer as a goal judge with the junior A team, you see quite a bit of different hockey also, like compared to when I was growing up, because growing up, like none of my buddies, we all wanted to play high school or, didn't even care about AAA because being a Wildcat didn't really appeal to us. And the Wildcats program took a whole revamp in the last decade plus. And now you got all the local kids, most of them, from what I can tell, want to be a Wildcat. Now, mind you, once they get to the U18 age, then it's a debate whether you want to play high school or not. Because like back when I was in high school, the Valley Division or Valley League for high school hockey all had guys that could have been playing Wildcats, and it was like how the HRM league is and how for high school hockey, it was very competitive. Because I know, like from what I was told by Matt Warner one day, I was just asking out of curiosity, hey, is the high school hockey and like the HRM pretty competitive? He's like, oh yeah, those guys are a lot of those guys are the last cuts for like Dartmouth, Halifax, Cole Harbour, and so forth. I'm like, okay, then that makes it really tough for those kids to make the teams, right? So played softball as well, like I said, and I played that up until I was 17, loved it. Now, the funny thing was, remember I said about being flat-footed? I was a late bloomer. I graduated high school at 5'3". Now I'm 6'1". So I was not a power hitter. I could shoot. I could somewhat hit. I could throw somewhat decent, could catch, run okay. The crazy thing was when the injury happened with the ATV racing, because I discovered motocross and loved it and was pretty good at it, was all the opportunities I've had in para. I became an elite athlete, not before injury, but after injury. And how my sport journey started as far as para goes was I met Anthony Purcell like during my rehab stint in October 2006. And a couple of months later, he hits me up on an email saying, hey, we just won bid for Canada Games 2011. We're going to put in a wheelchair basketball team. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, like, why not? So I got, like I say, after Adam and I met in 2007. I got into wheelchair basketball right after that. And I played wheelchair basketball for 4 years. And during that time, became Canada's first paraplegic race motocross unofficially. I discovered wheelchair racing during that time the next year. And how that kind of worked out was I had to go to a doctor's appointment in Halifax. I parked my truck at the QA2 to go to the to a specialist at the professional center on Roby Street. And I didn't want to drive my truck around the Halifax trying to find a drive-through. So I said, screw it. I'm going to wheel to the closest place that I can get into. And what did I pick? The worst place to get into that didn't have stairs, Starbucks on Roby. I'm not sure, Adam, if you've ever tried to get up that. It's not a ramp. It's a hill. It's not exactly friendly. And the good thing was I already had some strength, and I don't know how I did not flip my chair going up that hill. And I was wearing a wheelchair basketball t-shirt. My coach that I had for 12 years in my track career noticed it. Yuli asked me if I knew his prof. It's like, yeah. You want to do a fitness test? I'm like, one of those things where you just want to go until you quit, die, and puke. It's like, yeah, all right, sign me up. Six months later, did a test. Got me to try wheelchair racing. 2 months later, got in a race chair at Acadia, and I fell flat on my ass, and I never looked back for 12 years. So I competed in. The other thing was I competed in 2000. I did my first Canada Games, not in wheelchair basketball, actually, that summer in 2009 in track. And then I did the next Canada Games in wheelchair basketball, which was pretty cool because I met Ty Domi, because 2011, as you know, that was the year of Max Domi, Nathan McKinnon, Jordan Subban, and probably 2 or 3 more NHLers. But those were the 3 big names for Canada Games. I
remember watching those games. Those games were awesome. Team Ontario was a powerhouse. I think most of those guys ended up going on playing in the O.
Oh yeah. Well, the crazy thing was too, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want to bury the goalie, but the goalie that they had, Team Nova Scotia had for both games, because I watched the round robin Ontario game in the quarterfinal. He let in some soft goals. And we could have beat Team Ontario, in my opinion. And I said, I'm not trying to bury the guy, but that's just my opinion. And maybe because I was at the Canada Games as an athlete, not a spectator, my opinion might be a little more valid than, the non-scout, the average spectator. And I could be wrong. And that's how I feel also when I chirp Leaf fans too.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There, we knew that shot was coming.
Absolutely.
I mean, I am a Red Wings fan, so I understand Leafs pain.
There you go.
Fair enough. I mean, at least you were born when you can remember a Stanley Cup. Unlike anybody under the age of 50 can't remember a Stanley Cup for the
Four
league.
Four Stanley Cups.
Yeah. So you were at the 2009 Canada Games, 2011 Canada Games. I know you were there in 2017 when I was there because you won a couple silvers in Winnipeg. Right there. Yeah, there you go. That's now that's a wall. That's a wall for you.
Oh yeah. So I also went to 2013 Canada Games, and what happened at the 2013 Canada Games? We were shooting to win a bronze medal, and I failed. So Yuli and I had a chat after. He's like, "All right, Ben, you've been training pretty hard, but this is the thing: if you want to make Rio, you need to start training twice a day." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." I quit my part-time job. I was willing to go broke, and I spent basically that whole Paralympic cycle adding volume. Training almost every day of the week, twice a day. There was a time during that winter of 2014, I trained 19 days straight.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hard on the body.
It was, don't get me wrong, but all I cared about was I just got at that point my first Sport Canada carding. I wanted to prove that I earned that paycheck. And all I cared about at that time too was when 2014 season rolled around, I was going to get some serious PBs, and I was going to also, show that I'm worth the national funding. And also I was planning to go to Switzerland for the first time, because that's the cool thing about wheelchair racing is if you go to Switzerland for track, typically the best wheelchair racers in the world are going to be there too. And I wanted to make sure I wanted to show I could hang with them. Right. And at the end of my first Swiss series, Yuli went up to me. He's like, "Ben, you proved you can compete with those guys. Now we just got to get you to beat them." And the next year, Swiss went awesome. The next year, just missed Rio by 0.15 of a second, where I raced in front of 35,000 people, like in London Stadium. That video's on YouTube. And then the crazy thing about that race was the number 1 guy in the world, Brent Lactus, who ended up winning Rio that year, Number 3 in the world, Mickey Bushell of Great Britain, who was the defending Paralympic champion at the time. Was he was 3rd or 4th, either way. Then there was De Silva, Brazil, who was 3rd or 4th. Then my buddy Mo from Great Britain, who was 8th. And then there was me. And I finished 5th out of 6 people. And I just missed a Rio standard too at that point. But still, I got to race in front of 30 to 35,000 people on live national British television and live Facebook. So there was my highlight of 2016, other than winning my first national title that year. Because Brent didn't have to come to, it was kind of a weird thing. Brent, he lives in Great Britain. He didn't have to come to nationals to be eligible to go to Rio. And I happened to be Canada's fastest 100-meter guy in my classification that day, and it worked out. And I always tell people, I don't know what I enjoyed more, beating the guy I beat or winning my first national title. Because at that point, it wasn't about trying to make Rio. It was just come home with a lot of medals. And I have probably about 15 indoor and outdoor combined Nova Scotia track records, including the most medals by a Nova Scotia athlete, I believe, in track and field for Canadian championships. As you see, those 3 silver medals, I think the most medals by a track athlete at a single Canada Games.
It's definitely the most by a track and field athlete at a Canada Games, because generally, in 2017 when we were both there was 36 medals won by Nova Scotians, and 31 of them were paddling medals.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So that means 2 of the other 5 were you.
Yeah.
So I know one of them was sailing, a guy I went to high school with, Justin Timmons. But I mean, like, if we take out paddling as kind of part of that statistics, because Nova Scotia is kind of an anomaly about how good we are in paddling relative to other sports. Like, Nova Scotia is a paddling powerhouse. But like, I mean, to get two medals at Canada Games in a sport other than paddling from Nova Scotia is a huge deal. Like Ontario and Quebec, they send powerhouse teams to those, and I mean, like, we really are, like, we really are like a smaller province whenever you go to these competitions. Like you've been how many times you've been to Canada Games? I can't believe how many times you went.
4 times, and mind you, the last time I went was the reason why I was still eligible, because I've never made a World Championships, and I never made a Paralympics, and I was never senior carded. And because I was just under 30, the para cut. So the para cutoff is 29, and I just happened not to turn 30 until September.
Okay. So yeah, you just got under that line. Like, yeah, I know the age groups are completely different for every single sport. It's pretty whack, but
yeah. And initially, I wasn't sure I was going to go or not. And then Yuli, my coach, was the head coach for Team Nova Scotia, and he said, "Listen, Ben, we know you're well beyond good enough to be at Canada Games, because Canada Games for wheelchair racing is more of a development sport or development thing." But he said, "Ben, let's do it. Let's do our province proud and help get us some medals. And I know you can do it. It won't be an issue." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." And honestly, I was so glad to do it, not just because that was my Canada Games moment that I remember. It wasn't just my Canada Games moment for me, and it got rid of the bitter failure that I had in 2013, but it rejuvenated my wheelchair racing career. Because I'm not going to lie, during 2017, I was expected to make World Championships. I failed at it, and my race chair at the time was getting pretty worn out. I was having to constantly re-weld it and a bunch of stuff. And it wasn't like I was going to look to quit the sport, because I just knew I just had to come up with the funds to get a new race chair. But I wasn't looking forward to getting the race chair. And once I got to Winnipeg, once we had the opening ceremonies 3 days before competition, I was ready to go, fired up, and we had a couple great track practices. And once race day hit, I never looked back. I mean, it was kind of funny. I smoked, like, the guy my buddy Isaiah, who won all 3 golds, we were in separate heats before the finals. And the thing was, I handily won the heats, and so did Isaiah. And then it was just between us 2. And the really cool thing was, I just started doing the 1500 that year, because I was focused majority of my career on at that point, 124, 100, and starting to get into the 800, because I really liked it. Plus Yuli, that was his bread and butter in his Olympic running days. And, but with the 1500, our plan was to get in Isaiah's draft and let him do all the work, but I was willing during the second lap to do the work. And what I decided to do when it was my turn to take the lead out of the pack, I just said, all right, I'm going to drop everybody, as many people as I can, and burn them out. And I did that for a whole lap. It's on YouTube, like through the Canada Games highlights. And with 300 meters to go, Isaiah just happened to get me. And that was that. But like, I felt that was not just my one Canada Games moment, but one of my friends through volunteering at Central Kings High School football, his son Micah was competing in baseball. He watched that race and he just told all of our guys like that following football season. He said, "Do you want to see what real competition is and what it's like to be an athlete, making a move that no one else would go for? Watch how Ben races." And that was quite the compliment. And I felt that way. And I ended up getting, and the cool thing was I ended up getting that OX chair that you see on the side of my minivan.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer. I lost my national funding at the end of 2017 again, because I was expecting to make worlds and I didn't. And I got it back at the end of 2018 mostly because of that chair. And I just put my head down and I got a bunch of personal bests in 2018 and ended up being my, it's kind of funny. I never had a personal best after 2015 in the 200, never in the 100 after 2016. And I had my fastest 400 in 2018. And then 2019, I ended up getting some really good ones. I went to 2 Para Pan Ams 2015, which that race is on YouTube. I think both races are on YouTube, years are on YouTube, but I know 2015 because 2019 was kind of a massive failure. And with 2019, we had an absolute downpour. And the great thing is, I think this is why I don't mind getting wet in the boat, because I've always trained in rain, like downpours, and it downpoured in Toronto, and people are freaking out because they've never had to really train in the rain or race in the rain. Here I'm just salivating. I go grab the Clister. I do 7-kilometer warm up.
Of course, the Blue Noser loves the rain.
I've never had rain at the Blue Nose, the 5K I've done in the Blue Nose, thankfully, because you know what that last turn is like before Scotiabank Center.
Oh yeah, that turns hell. You can I did it last fall, and man, you build up a lot of speed, and then the finish line comes right up on your ass like that.
Well, for us in race chairs, you're going down that hill about 40 kilometers an hour, and it's a 90-degree turn. So you got to get on, like you got to be careful going down the hill that you're not going too fast, and you're not too hard on the brakes and popping tires. Then you got that 400-meter hill climb at the finish. And you're already getting a little lactic at that point, yeah, so you got to climb that hill.
That must
now, mind you,
tough.
I've crashed at Blue Nose myself and still won. It was funny. In 2018, Yuli's like, "Ben, don't try for people." I'm like, "Okay, yep, no worries." And I was just flowing. And of course, you know, the first full paved course at Blue Nose, you were right going down the whole Sackville Street. And I couldn't help but go about 43 kilometers an hour down this hill. I thought I could make the hairpin at 23, and I flipped over.
God, you go 7 more kilometers, they're going to give you a speeding ticket.
You're right. And the funny thing was, all the guys are my cyclists, guide cyclists, all the flaggers are all looking at me like they've never seen someone tip over in a wheelchair, let alone a race chair. And I'm like, "Get me up. Get me up, get me up." And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing? I'm fine. Get me up. I got a race to win." So they got me up, and away I went, and didn't have a concussion, surprisingly. Went to Switzerland the next day, and that was that. And like I said, had an awesome Swiss series. And also in 2018 was my best nationals. I won 3 gold medals and another silver, and then did very well in the 1500 as well, where I didn't get dropped until maybe the very end. So, because again, with the 1500, we had in my racing career near the end, we had 4 guys who could do a 1500 meter in under 3 minutes. So that's the other thing, if you weren't aware, is wheelchair racers, we're slower than runners in the 1 to 400, but with the 800 meters and above, see ya. Because I also have, when I was talking about those provincial records, I have the fastest by any Nova Scotianer 800, 1500, and marathon. Like, wow. No runners are ever going to touch it. I'll be glad to say that. And that's kind of awesome. So my 800, my fastest 800 before I switched sport was 1:44.29, and that wasn't good enough to get me to Tokyo. Could have got me to Rio if I did it in the Rio cycle, but to get to Tokyo, I had to go under a minute 40, which I just couldn't quite do it in 2020 or 21, I should say. My 1500, my fastest was 3:16.87, which is now, get this, 30 seconds slower than the world record that was broken over almost 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And my marathon was my last big race before I switched sports, and I did that in an hour 48:33, and the world record is almost 30 minutes over 30 minutes faster. Again, that was the one reason why I changed sports, because I was improving, but the problem was, here was me, here was everybody else, so I had to make a change. And like I said, I got about 5 national titles. There's all my medals mostly. And yes, my favorite Canadian team's Calgary. And when I was 11 years old, when I saw that jersey on TSN, I had to have it.
Oh yeah, the nose breathing tire. That's an icon. You got to get that new reverse retro one.
Well, what I want to do is meet up with Cam Wynot, because he's from my area, the Mooseheads, and he's also the draft pick of Calgary, and get him to sign that.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be sweet. And so Ben, leading to my next question for you, man, and you mentioned this earlier, like you said that you had peaked as an athlete after your accident. And my question is, how do you hope, because like the resume is there, bud, there's no doubt about it. You are very impressive, but there's so much more to you than just competing. And how do you hope to inspire kids or people or anyone that have an accident, or any athletes that are inspiring to, wanting to compete at the top levels? How do you hope to inspire those people?
For me, I actually said this in an interview with Eastlink in 2013, and it started how Yuli expressed it. Like one day when we were doing a breakfast fundraiser for our track club, I think in 2011, is like, kids with disabilities, they can look up to like someone like Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, or Drake Baffs, and I'm not trying to be disparaging when I say this, but at the end of the day, they can't quite be those guys. So they need their role models like myself, or someone like Brent Lactose, Marcel Hoog, Brian Hennessy, Matthew St. Pierre. Yes, I'm using some paddlers, or Patrick Anderson, who have a disability, and we have the same physical difference, and they see that we can do just as many things as someone with no disability can do. And that's kind of what I want to do and it's not just for the kids with a disability, it's for any kid. Like, I feel like, because I am from the Annapolis Valley, I'm in a much smaller region of Nova Scotia. It gives, if the kid that wants to be an NHLer, let's say, oh, Ben's from my area and he's winning medals, or he's competing at the top level of his sport, I can do that too. And that's really and that's not even just on me. I mean, that's why I love the fact that Drake is killing it in the NHL. It gives kids from our area, me and him give kids from our area a glimmer of hope that kids may not have had from our area in the last like decade or two, at least. Because again, and that's why I love the fact that, we get more and more NHLers from Nova Scotia. Because like growing up, the only NHLer, only NHLer we had that I was aware of was Al McInnes. If you think about it, right? Because he was the only one getting like the press.
Yep, for sure.
In Nova Scotia.
Yeah. And that was the thing too. And I mean, I think, and that's the big thing is, like I say, like, I always tell people, like, don't set a limit on yourself, go for it. Right. Like, that's the one thing I try to do is push myself, considering what my disadvantages are. Like, I have no ab function. So Dave and I in the canoe, we're trying to we try to see how far we can push it and make adjustments on what we want to do with what I can't actually do. And then we figure it out. And it's been working well so far in the under a year I've been in a canoe. And I'm jumping in a kayak after Canada Cup too.
Okay. There you go. No,
very versatile.
Excited to follow you along at Canada Cup. I know that's going to be your first kind of big regatta, like racing other than just yourself, like as a part of a team. And the like the para team in Canada, like right now, like the para team absolutely killed it in World Cups. A good friend of mine, Erica Scarf, she like switched over from like a kayak style boat to the V1, and she ended up taking home a gold in the World Cups. And I mean, it really is inspiring, just like how hard you like para athletes work, and just how much like perseverance you need to have to do it, because there's so many just extra obstacles like that.
Oh yeah.
You have to work through. Like, I mean, like I might complain about the wind sometime, but like, I mean, it's like for a para athlete, it take like mentally strong, like it's the para athletes that I've had the pleasure of being around are the most mentally strong athletes I've ever been around.
I appreciate that, Brett. And you saw it like at Trials 1, that day one, it was meant to demoralize, because, you're talking about wind. We almost need like not quite perfect conditions to train and race, but it almost seems like, especially as a class 1, like if it's windy, it's one thing, but if you start getting choppy water, we're at a high risk of tipping over. We're strapped to those boats. And in the case of Trials 1, like that first day, the rescue boat came, got me back on the start line. And as soon as the rescue boat let me go, off the course I went. Couldn't race because I have no ab function. It's just like those things I have to deal with. And but it made and like you talked about my mental toughness. The next day I go out and fire it out and get a world championship standard, right? So, and that was the thing. And that's the thing, is like, I think with the injury, it made me a lot mentally stronger right off the get-go. And yeah, there's been times where like you question, why are you out there? Like not on the boat, but just in sport. And then you remember, okay, I'm here because I want to be the best in the world at what I do someday. So if I slack off, I ain't getting anywhere. So, and that's the thing. And also like I said, it's not even just the Canada Cup. I'm looking forward to Trials 2 to get myself on Team Canada for World Cup champions this year. Because to be honest, I never thought in my lifetime that I'd be competing in a sport where the biggest international event of the year would be in my backyard.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. I mean, like I said earlier, like Nova Scotia is a hotbed for paddlers, and not just nationally, but just on the world stage too. Dartmouth has held worlds in 97, 09. They had junior worlds in 89, marathon worlds in 2000. Lake Banook is truly something special. But I'm going to give Denny a chance to ask a question, because I know he's going to be chomping at the bit to ask you some stuff.
Sounds good. Go for it, Denny.
Honestly, first of all, before I ask you this question, I just want to say, as a para athlete myself, people ask me who are your para role models, and 99 times out of 100 I mention your name. So
I appreciate it, man. I truly do.
Because I've got to see you race not race, but I've seen you practice firsthand, and people tell me, ask me in 3 words, well, how would you explain Ben Brown? And I'd always say to them, hell of an athlete. So. And
I appreciate it, man.
No problem,
appreciate
buddy.
it.
No problem at all. And we were taught. My first question really is, how did you mentally prepare yourself? Did you mentally prepare yourself for these big races? Because I know when I did Special Olympics and I was racing just like a 25-meter race, 15 minutes before the race, not literally, but I was figuratively shitting my pants. Like, it's not even funny.
Oh man. So
okay,
it's like
so
the
true.
first thing is like it is. And I never really gave much thought about it. Like when I first did, first started, because I just looked at wheelchair basketball games, like I did hockey and stuff. But growing up, I mean, got the tunes going. I'm a metalhead, so I had to have the tunes going. But then as I got older and got deeper into competition, it was a lot of visualization. Like, I'm not gonna lie, my first regatta last year, I'm just going down the highway, and like as I'm paying attention on the road, I'm just visualizing just going down the lake, holding my line, because all we cared about that first regatta was getting a time that counted. That's all we cared about, and it was just visualizing. Like, and also like on Saturday, I had to race the race by my race by myself. So all I visualized was just like, okay, no one's out there with me, but I can mentally see the guy who's third in the world right now, who I'm hunting down for that bronze medal. I can see him at the finish line. I'm going to catch him. And that's all I cared. Like, it was just, and that's what I did. It was how I was doing my strokes, how I was going to go about it. Like, a friend of mine, Trevor, we were on the way to one of my last chances to try to make Rio at SMU. And he can tell you, like, I was just like snapping my fingers, and the snap of the fingers was to be.
Oh, it looks like we lost him for.
All right. Okay, so like I said, it's a lot of visualization and just self-confidence and self-motivation, and just knowing what, like, and the thing was, because of my wheelchair racing career, when I raced locally, a lot of the time my teammates were by myself, and if they weren't, I'd be by myself, like within 20, 50 meters, or if it was a longer distance race or a road race, 99% of the time, I was the only wheelchair racer out there. So I had to learn how to, like, you just set a goal and you just went for it. And that's kind of the thing. And I even do that with practice. Like, I come into practice shooting. What is my practice? All right. As I was saying, like, just getting, it was, you just learn to set goals for yourself, and away you go. On the visualization, I'm a key opponent of that, positive self-talk, and just being aware of what's a realistic goal and trying to achieve it before competition.
That's awesome. That's such great insight, Ben. And, man, it's awesome to have you on, and just to share your experiences with us, man. It's really cool to hear, your journey as an athlete, and super thankful for guys like you, because you're truly an inspiration, man. So I know we're running out of time, but thanks so much for coming on. Any last thoughts before we let Ben go?
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Ben. Like, I mean, like, you've had such a long career, like dating all the way back when you first mentioned your first Canada Games back in 2011, and then we still didn't even get to touch on like Para Pan Am Games, like all the multi-sport stuff that you've done. And I mean, very excited to see you transition into paddling. I think you're going to have a great career, a great long career in the sport as a para canoe athlete. Just wanted to say one thing kind of to you is that you kind of mentioned like, oh, the newer boat helped, and like the newer chairs have helped over time, but that might be the frame, but you're the engine, buddy. You're what gets that boat and gets those chairs going. So you should be really proud of yourself, and I know there's so many people proud of you.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Hey, Mariah, like I always say, the thing about me, and I got this quote from Mark Bell, who's a retired powerlifting competition. He said on this video, satisfied athletes suck. Write that down. So that's why I'm always motivated to do better, because I never get satisfied. I get proud of what I do, but I'm never satisfied with what I do. Because once you get satisfied, you don't strive to achieve better.
There you go.
That's words to live by for sure.
Oh yeah. And what's the predictions for tonight's game, guys? Like, I'm thinking the Rangers are going to take it, but I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, frig. I think Tampa is not going to roll over lightly at home. I think Colorado, you bring out the brooms. Edmonton's done, and Chris is done in our playoff pool. So with Edmonton out, I still have a fighting chance if Colorado can win the cup. Just very, very slimmer a hope. I think Tampa ties it up at 2. I think that series goes to 7.
Well, like, I'd like to see it, but it's just like the fact that maybe it's me because I'm a Maritimer. I want to see that cup come back to the Maritimes. You got the Rangers coaching staff for all Maritimers, I believe, and then you got with Colorado, we got McKinnon. Hey, I mean, I haven't seen the Stanley Cup in person yet. Now I got to see it before the day's done, right? So
Absolutely. Lots of good hockey still to come, and looking forward to it. And just thanks again, Ben, for taking time out of your day and spending it with us here at BHD Sports. We're proud of you, man, and can't wait to see you continue to grow and continue to just bring that heat, man, because that's what you do. You bring it every day, and we appreciate you a lot here.
Welcome, Chris, and thanks and for having me, guys. Also, one last thing was we're Maskwell. We're having, I believe, an open house for para paddling on the 17th this month. So, Denny, we might have to get you out, man. Just try out on a boat. We got.
There you go, Danny.
Trust me, those like in the Vaugh, the chances of you tipping a ball over are kind of slim, especially on a nice day. And Himmer will come out if you come out.
I'll be there, buddy.
All right,
Right
Ben. Thanks so much. And everyone, that'll do it for episode 12 of BHD Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.